In this video, we're going to look at the normal probability distribution. This is the probability distribution that we looked at way back when we looked at chapter 3 and we looked at the bell curve and the empirical rule. Well, now we're actually going to formalize how we look at the normal probability distribution. Again, we're going to use StatCrunch to help illustrate how this is actually going to look. So if you have StatCrunch up and going, that'd be great. You can put that side by side with this video. We're going to go to Stat Calculators and we're going to look for normal. We can see that the bell curve comes right up and we have our normal probability distribution. And what we have here is X is our random variable. And then we're given the fact that our standard deviation is 1 and our mean is equal to 0. Now we'll be able to change those later on, but we're going to start with this. This is called the standard normal distribution. And it represents 1, 2, 3 standard deviations above the mean and 1, 2, 3 standard deviations below the mean. So this is the empirical rule that we learned way back when, okay? Now we can see that looking at this calculator right now, half of it is shaded. We've got this line right in the middle and half of this bell curve is shaded. And if we look down here, we're saying the probability of the random variable X is less than or equal to 0. That's equal to 0.5. That makes absolute sense, right? We've got half of this is shaded. If we want to say, okay, what is it greater than 0? Also going to be 0.5 for our probability. When we did our empirical rule, we asked what's the probability that's within 1 standard deviation of the mean. And when you hit between on StatCrunch, this is what comes up immediately. Here we have -1 and here we have +1, and you can see we have our 68%. Now it's not exact, and every time we do this, it's not going to be exact for a lot of these values, but it's close enough, right? It rounds to 68%, and that's what we're going to go with here. If you were going to throw a dart at this dartboard, 68% of the time, you would hit this red area. That's exactly what you would get, okay? I'm going to change these values to -2 and to +2. And look, there's our 95%. So 95% of our probability is within 2 standard deviations of the mean, okay? Now, it was the empirical rule. It wasn't actually perfect. Here's where we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds when we get with the normal probability distribution. Just like I did with a uniform probability distribution, I can change this probability value. And I'm going to change that to be 0.95. And we can see that the values that we get are -1.96 and +1.96. These are the actual values that we get of the number of standard deviations below the mean and above the mean. That's that 95%, okay? If we look at 68% or 0.68, it's really close to -1 and +1, but it's not exactly -1 and +1, okay? So the empirical rule is a very close ballpark of the numbers that we're seeing right here, but it's not exact. And when you're doing statistics, you want to be as exact as possible. The other was 3 standard deviations from the mean. That was that 99.7%. So if I do 0.997 here, we're going to get something pretty close to 3 standard deviations above between the mean. Okay, so this is the standard normal distribution. You can do all kinds of calculations, and this is what you'll do for section 6.2 of your homework, is that you may ask, okay, what's the probability that it's less than -0.5? And it's going to shade in this area here, and the area of this red part is just about 31%, okay? You can ask, what's the probability that it's between 1.23 and let's say 1.56, and yes, it's about just about 5%, and it represents this a little bit of slice, okay? So there again, there's 2 ways to use this normal calculator. You can type in values for your random variables, or you can type in probability values,